Welcome to Youth Sunday at All Saints Church, the summer Sunday in which we celebrate all of the graduating seniors from All Saints Church and all of the youth ministry of All Saints. And we choose 4 really amazing, wonderful graduating seniors to preach the 4 different sermons during the 4 different liturgies this morning. We'll have more to say about all of this, but I knew that you would want now to welcome to our pulpit Danna.
Good morning. When I was younger, I used to look at the seniors who would write the sermons on Youth Sunday and wonder if I would ever be able to do what they did. And here I am. Mostly, though, I wondered what I would say. Every year I thought about it, and every year the answer was different. But as an 18-year-old headed off to college, I find myself thinking about expectation quite a bit. I believe every generation feels the weight of certain expectations. I think my generation is expected to be one of leaders. Leaders in technology, environmental protection, government, and leaders who reduce social injustice and bigotry. The question I set out to answer for myself in this sermon is, what kind of leaders do the members of my generation need? And what kind of leader am I expected to be as a Christian? It turns out that the Israelites in the reading from 1 Samuel today were struggling with this very same question of leadership. Now, historically, this biblical story can be understood in 2 ways. First, it explains how a group of tribal Israelites who viewed God as their leader suddenly came to have a king. They blame peer pressure. They say they want to be like other nations who expect other serious nations to have kings. There are those pesky expectations again. The second understanding of this passage comes from knowing that this portion of the Bible was written while the Israelites were in exile in Babylon. In many ways, the Jews are saying that this moment is the beginning of the end, the mistake that would make the Jews prisoners to other kings who were stronger than their own. It is both a justification and a condemnation. It is an apology for the errors of the past, an apology for the leaders that they chose who turned out not to be so great. For me, this story is challenging on 2 very different is challenging because it shows that God works on 2 very different levels. Level 1, what God wants us to do. And level 2, what God will allow us to do. God allows the Israelites in that moment to make a mistake. God tells them what God wants by warning them of their egregious error, but doesn't stop them. Why? After all, the Israelites are ultimately asking God for a king through Samuel. So why doesn't God say no? Why doesn't God play the parent and put the foot down? Truthfully, I think God gets something in this moment that we forget sometimes, which is that leadership is complicated. Leaders are a diverse group. There are political leaders, spiritual leaders, leaders in entrepreneurship and advocacy, leaders in our families, and leaders in our schools. So why are the Israelites so fixated on the political kind? After all, Samuel seems like a great spiritual leader. They should be set. What is also equally amazing and interesting is that, as we see in today's gospel reading, Jesus, by any standard, a great leader, is being labeled as insane, as someone suffering from mental illness. The Jews expected a very different kind of Messiah, a leader who would be a king brandishing a sword to bring back the nation of Israel, not one who could be dismissed as insane. But Jesus doesn't vouch for his own sanity, and he doesn't try to meet the expectations of the Jewish people either. Instead, Jesus proves that even those who are deemed unable to lead can be the ones that bring a greater sense of understanding and acceptance to the world. That, to me, is true leadership. I've experienced this firsthand in my cousin David, who is autistic. Every holiday, David calls me or texts me telling me to have a great holiday. David introduces himself to nearly every person he meets, and he brings all those who are willing to respond to his love closer. If people like Samuel and my cousin David act as good leaders, why do the Israelites ask for a leader from God? There already seem to be leaders all around them. What is it that my cousin David and that Samuel had that other leaders don't? I'm 18 now, which means I'm about to be responsible for selecting the leaders that run our country. So I've started asking myself, what kind of leader God would want? What kind of leaders do I hope my classmates will be one day? What kind of leader could I be? I've come to see that my answer lies in the fact that the truest and sincerest hope I have is that the leaders of my generation will let love lead. Let love for our planet and its resources, for our friends and our families, for people of other faith traditions, and people of our shared Christianity lead the way. Let love lead us to accept people of all abilities, races, ethnicities, sexual orientations, and backgrounds. Leading with love can allow us to meet human expectations and needs while working with God. The Israelites failed to do what God wants because of how they meet these expectations. God let them pick a leader that represented what they valued, as God allows us to do today. The Israelites picked Saul for strength, David for faith, Solomon for wisdom. But God picked Jesus for us as one who leads in love. Jesus lets the love we feel for family become the kind of love we can share with everyone. He says as much in today's reading when he says his true brothers and sisters are those who decide to follow him. The seniors this year are about to become a part of a new family as we go off to college. I believe that if we can lead with this love, we can form a wider and more inclusive family that can change the world as we know it, much as Jesus and his followers did. But no leader is perfect. King David in the Bible was and is considered by the Jewish people to be a great leader, yet he made very human mistakes that the Bible does not try to hide. David, however, was faithful and wished to lead with love as God did. It is this love that led him to ask for forgiveness when he made mistakes, and that allowed him to do good for his people. There have been leaders in every generation who have made both small and profound mistakes, and there will be leaders like this in the future. Some of us in this room may be some of them. But this does not mean that we condemn all the good they did and will do as leaders, and all the love they share. Only as people committed to the work of love can we, even in our mistakes, truly change the script of the world. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said it well. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Of all the many divides leaders are asked to bridge between languages, countries, ideologies, religions, genders, races, and sexual orientations, I know of one universal constant: love. If, as we always hear at All Saints, love is God manifested, then to lead with love must be to go with God. I want to take this love with me because so many places need this love. Ferguson and Baltimore need it. Yemen needs it. The Ukraine and Russia need it. Our world desperately needs it. We at All Saints are lucky enough to know what it feels like when a community is led with love. I have one particularly vivid memory of being at All Saints. It was Christmas, and I was young, probably 4. My family was slipping into the service right as it was about to start, which is not unusual. And there didn't seem to be any room for us to sit. We were leaving the church, ready to get in the car and go home, when I heard a booming voice behind me asking where we were going. I turned, and there was Ed, all smiles and his usual bundle of Christmas joy. He asked what my name was. At the time, my favorite movie was The Lion King, and I told him my name was Simba. He still calls me that to this day. He asked again where we were going, and my parents explained. Then Ed said, "There is always room in the church." That, to me, is what it means to lead with love. There is always room when one leads with love. So go with love. And thank you for the way you have led me as I have grown in this community. And that is with great, great love. Amen.